Hornady Critical Defense in .22 Magnum is loaded with a heavy for caliber 45 grain FTX bullet. The FTX bullet is unaffected by thick and heavy clothing. The 45 grain FTX bullet delivers superior controlled expansion and terminal ballistics comparable to the .380 Auto Critical Defense load. Optimized for short-barreled firearms, the .22 WMR features clean burning propellants with low flash and blast. Unfortunately, I experienced two issues with this load. The first was locking up the cylinder after round 4, requiring me to remove the cylinder and the spent cases in order to complete the test. The second was keyholing. Looking at the back of the target, it was clearly evident that the bullets had entered sideways, so instead of punching a clean hole through the cardboard, it punched a ragged, elongated hole. Hornady publishes a 1,000 feet per second velocity for this load from a 1 7/8 inch barrel. Our 1 5/8 inch test barrel had no problems exceeding that, with an average velocity of 1,061 feet per second for the 5-shot group. It's the recovery of the Hornady Critical Defense .22 WMR. Taking a look at the bare gel shot, you can see the bullet enters, and look what that is. That's a stretch wing and a permanent wound channel, which to me indicates we actually saw some expansion from this load. This is what we typically see with the larger jacketed hollow points. Do have one little fragment of copper right there. Continues on down. It's a rotational pattern as it goes down through the block, indicating that the petals have expanded, and as the bullet rotates, those stretch wings actually rotate with the bullet. And we finally come to the bullet at rest. There's the red plug that was in the hollow point cavity, and it appears to be partially expanded, probably not fully expanded bullet, and it is resting base forward. Alright, with the ruler up, we're looking at the wound channel right behind this black line. Expansion was immediate, showing a stretch cavity permanent wound channel within the first half an inch, and it continues on for quite some time. The expansion, we know we have an expanded bullet. We're not sure how broadly it expanded. The wound channel looks very uniform. If anything, the bullet turned to the left and did a little bit of a dive routine as it went down through the block. And finally coming to rest, base forward at 11 1/4 inches. So we'll dig that out and see what kind of expansion we got with that bullet. But it definitely expanded somewhat. Taking a look at the 4 layers of heavyweight denim test shot. Very interesting bullet entry into the block. I hope you guys can see this. As I was running through the velocity and point of impact testing, I mentioned the bullets had a tendency to tumble or yaw and keyhole by the time they had gone the 8 feet to hit the cardboard. This is the first time I've seen this, but it appears that the bullet passed through the denim and into the gel block sideways. I'm not sure if it was perfectly sideways or slightly angled, but that's not expansion. That's 100% the bullet entering the block on its side. You can see it grows quite a bit, so it was probably less than perfectly perpendicular to the block, but it was in some ways sideways. Alright, the bullet comes down through. That wound channel kind of turns away from us a little bit. The bullet then starts veering to the left. And at some point it actually straightens out. And Honestly, from the artifacts left in the block, I can't tell you when that happened. There's the little piece of red plug that came out of the hollow point. I don't believe we're going to see any expansion on that bullet. It is definitely resting base forward, and the nose pointing back to where it entered the block. But very interesting to actually see what the wound channel looks like when the bullet enters, instead of nose first but side first. Just how broad that permanent wound channel is. Alright, we've got the ruler up, and our wound channel is going to be right behind the line I'm pointing to, the one with the numbers on it. So the bullet entered on edge, or on its side, so it looks like we've got expansion and a nice fat wound channel, but it's actually because the bullet entered sideways. It does straighten out, and the wound channel does shrink between inches 3, 4, and 5. Starts to broaden out again at inches 6 and 7. And it continues on down through the block, veers off to the left, and then we finally recover our bullet. The heavy denim test shot is coming to rest 11 3/8 into the block. This load from Hornady had a lot going for it. Unfortunately, the test was marred by two significant events. The first was the keyholing of the bullets. The second is the brass jamming the rotation of the revolver cylinder. Both of those are showstoppers for me. We did get some expansion, we got reasonable penetration, we had really good velocity for this heavy 45 grain load, but for this one I'm going to have to take a pass. I hope you enjoyed the review, and thanks very much for watching.